Hey, what's up YouTube? My name is Seth, or Barbarossa24, and today's video is one that I've been meaning to make for a while, and I just couldn't wait any longer to make it because in the last week or so, I have had 4 different people, when seeing me play Star Wars Battlefront, they asked,
is it possible to learn this power?
And the short answer to that is yes, most likely. It depends exactly what you're doing wrong. And the long answer is exactly what this video is going to be. Hopefully, in this video, those people can just see it for themselves. If you are a player who's already pretty good at Battlefront, then this video might not help you, but maybe it will. Maybe it'll have 1 or 2 things that you didn't already know. And for those of you who are not quite as good, and you're wanting to get better, then this is probably the perfect video for you. Let's jump into it. First up, we have doing faster rolls. So there's 2 different ways that you can do the combat rolls or the barrel rolls. And the first way is the wrong way. You just double tap the B button while holding the left stick to whichever side you're trying to roll to. And that does work, it's just extremely slow. They look really sluggish. As one of my friends put it, it looks like a 400-pound man trying to roll over. And it really does. It's not going to work. You're not going to win any close fights when your rolls are that slow and sluggish. So what you want to do faster rolls, and it's really easy, is when your guy is mid-roll and his back is on the ground, you're just going to hit the A button, and then they're going to pop up twice as fast. And that will make a huge difference. It'll be the difference in winning a close gunfight or losing it. And doing this faster way of rolling will actually be faster than sprinting even. Even if the person that you're going against has Escape Artist, unless they have trait 3, the fast roll is still going to be faster than their sprint. Rolling does not show up on the radar. So as long as you are not shooting or sprinting and you're rolling instead, the enemies will have no idea where you are on their minimap because you won't show up. So if you can see here, I actually kill a couple enemies here while I'm mid-roll, and as long as you're pulling the trigger while you're rolling, you can pretty much be dodging hits and also inflicting damage, so it's really a win-win if you can pull this off. I will say that this is almost impossible to hit if they're a moderate distance away from you, but if this enemy is like right up in your face, pretty much all you have to do is pull the trigger and you're more than likely going to get those hits, and that's going to be the difference in winning or losing a close fight. Similarly, you can also melee while rolling. This should be really obvious, but you need to strafe if you're going to be any good at all. In this clip, you can see I'm just kind of standing there, and it's extremely easy for even these AI people to hit me, and real players are going to be even better. They're going to kill me twice as fast, and if you're just standing there trying really hard to aim up your shots, you are going to get gunned down so quickly every time. So it's very important to be at least kind of moving around a little bit, just a nice back and forth kind of movement. It doesn't even have to be a significant amount of space, just a little tiny bit of movement can be the difference in winning or losing. Tip number 3 is deactivating your star cards or charge cards early. So in this clip you can see I have my shield up, and then about halfway through I can put my shield back down by holding that same button that I used to activate it. This works really well if you put it up because you're low on health and then an enemy starts running at you to try and melee. You just immediately put your shield back down and shoot them in the face, and very rarely will they see this coming unless they're a really good player who knows what's going on. And you can do the same thing with your star cards. So if you pull out your bowcaster, pulse cannon, whatever it is, and then you decide the shot's not really there, I don't want to use this, just hit the same bumper that you used to pull it out and it will go back without charging it. Next up we have switching shoulder view. So in this clip you can see how I'm able to kind of peek around this cover without my full body being exposed, and that's because I'm switching which shoulder I'm looking over. So now I'm looking over the left and the right, and that can be huge because it will help you see around tight corners without really having to step out into the corner and expose your body. Next up we have reading the minimap. So this should be obvious, but you can look at your minimap and you see the red. Of course that means there are enemies. If you see the red circle in the middle, that means that you had better have an idea of what's going on around you because there's an enemy within 10 meters of you. So watch out for melees or getting shot in the back, whatever it might be. If you see kind of that long red streak, that means that there's an enemy that's more than 10 meters away, but less than 100 meters away from you. And if you see that tiny red line on the outer edge of the circle, that means that there is an enemy more than 100 meters away from you. And once again, people who are rolling or using the scout trait are not going to show up on your minimap, so just keep that in mind. Next up we have using the cooling flush. So most people know how to use this, and basically when your gun overheats and it's cooling down, if you hit the X button while it is in that yellow area, you will immediately cool down your weapon and can start firing again instead of having to just wait for it to cool down. And that's great, but I see a lot of people kind of abusing this and misusing it. And what I mean by that is they use this every single time their gun overheats, which you really shouldn't do unless you're in the middle of a close fight. Then obviously you want to be able to immediately cool down your weapon. But I see a lot of people who will kill an enemy, there's nobody else around them, and boom, they hit that cooling flush. And every time that you do that, it makes it harder to hit the next one. And so you're most likely going to miss, and then it's going to take even longer for your cooldown to complete, and that will end up costing you a lot of close fights. This next one, very simple, switching power-ups. If you have a power-up that you decide you don't want, you can just walk up to another power-up. You don't have to throw or use whatever your power-up is. You can immediately just get rid of it and hit X, and that will immediately swap it out and give you a new one. This tip is really important, and I see a lot of people doing this wrong, but knowing when to zoom and when to fire from the hip. I almost never use the zoom because it make it harder to strafe when you're doing this. So obviously you're not going to want to do that in a close fight because that's going to give your enemy the advantage. And the worst part about this is that I see a lot of people zooming just out of habit, even when the enemy is right up close to them and they don't need to zoom at all. They just do it anyway, and you're just immediately putting yourself at a disadvantage, and there's no reason to do that. So the only time that I ever zoom is if the enemy is far away from me, and even then I usually just zoom for the first shot or two, and then I'm kind of locked in already and I don't really need to keep zooming, unless they're just extremely far away, in which case it might not even be worth shooting at them. It kind of depends what gun you're using. Be careful about using the zoom, and more often than not, you'll find that you don't need to use it at all. Keeping your crosshairs up is another great tip. So I see a lot of people, when they're not firing at an enemy, they are running and they have their gun pointed at the ground. When you get into a fight with an enemy, you're immediately putting yourself at a disadvantage because while they just start shooting at you, you have to look up and then start shooting. In that split second that you're moving your crosshair from pointing at the ground to up where it should be the whole time, that gives them that much more time, especially if they're using something like explosive shot or they're just a dead-eye shooter, then they're gonna have you dead before you even know what's going on. So always have your crosshairs up, especially if you are rounding a corner, because you never know when there's gonna be somebody there, and just in that instant that you're moving the crosshair up, that can be all the time your enemy needs to kill you. Another simple tip is you can actually capture objectives while you're moving or strafing. So instead of just walking up to a cargo or a drop pod and holding X to capture it, you can be circling around it or just kind of strafing back and forth and still capturing it. Obviously this is great because if somebody comes and they try and shoot you, that will give you hopefully a little better chance of surviving and turning the tables on them and winning that fight. This is one that I'm guilty of not following all the time, and that is picking your battles, tactical retreats, and when to push. I am extremely guilty of doing this all the time where I'll see an enemy and I'll be having a great level and be Master Bodyguard and think this is easy, I'm just gonna jump back over there, get that kill, and then I land, get the kill, and then realize there's 4 other enemies there. Now I'm going to die. Even if I do take down 1 or 2 more of them, get my shield up, chances are the others, unless they're completely incompetent, are going to shoot through my shield or kill me before I can even get it up. Having a partner is extremely useful in Star Wars Battlefront. Not only can you coordinate your attacks, but even if you're playing with somebody that you're not in a party with, or a complete noob, you can still benefit off having that partner, as opposed to not having any partner at all. So let's say, for example, you use your jump pack, and then you immediately die. So now when you respawn, that jump pack is going to be on cooldown, unless, when you're on that respawn screen, you scroll over to your partner's hand, click their hand, and then go back to your hand, click that, then spawn in, boom, all your star cards and charge are immediately cooled down and ready to go again. When you are within 25 meters of your partner, your charge cards, star cards, everything cools down faster than when you are not close to your partner. This is another tip that should be pretty obvious, just in case it isn't. Use third person. Please, please never use first person. First person is so bad. So when you could be peeking around a corner in third person and seeing who's around the corner without having to expose your body at all, and not only that, the enemy won't even see you around that corner and you can see them. But if you're in first person, you have to physically move your character out into the open and expose them to more shots in order to be able to see around those corners. So just never use first person. It's never going to be better than third person. This is the question that I get probably more than any others. How do you shoot your EE3 so fast? I don't really know the answer to that other than having a quick trigger finger, I guess. I've seen tutorial videos on the EE3 which say that you have to try and do 2 trigger pulls and then a short pause and kind of do that rhythm. So 2 trigger pulls, pause, 2 trigger pulls, pause, and that's how you really burst it at its maximum potential. I don't consciously do that. Maybe I do it subconsciously at this point because I've been doing it for so long. I don't really know. But what I can say is I see a lot of people jamming their EE3 shots, and it's because they're trying way too hard to shoot it super quickly. So if you're just jamming on that trigger as fast as you can, you're probably going to be not bursting it, and you're going to be shooting really slow. Even I do that every now and again, especially when an enemy sneaks up on me or surprises me and I'm really startled and I panic, and I just start pulling the trigger as fast as I can. So more than anything, it's really just about finding a rhythm that works for you, and once you find that rhythm, just stick with it. This last tip is by far the most important one to know if you are trying to become a better Star Wars Battlefront player. It pretty much boils down to my Battlefront philosophy. The most important thing before even going into a match is building the proper hand. I will tell you right now that 90% of the weapons and cards in this game are completely worthless and should never be used ever, and yet I see people using them all the time. There are a select few weapons and cards that are just significantly better than all the rest, and these are the ones that you should be using all the time. But the most important thing, and this is my Battlefront philosophy, is to have a versatile hand. So when constructing your hand and choosing your weapon, your loadout, everything, I like to have the most versatile hand possible. So having the cards and weapon that are going to be the most useful to me in the most amount of situations. So things like the jump pack, which I can use to jump closer to an enemy if I got them on the ropes, or jump away from an enemy if they got me low on health. You can use that kind of as an offensive or defensive tool, and getting to places that you can't otherwise without the jump pack. So the jump pack is extremely versatile and useful in just about every situation. So that's one example, and I like having a defensive focused hand because to me, I can kill plenty of people already with my primary weapon, so I don't need an extra offensive weapon like a grenade or a scatter. to be able to get those kills because it's more efficient and quick for me to just mow them down with my EE3 anyway. So having that slot instead for something like Bacta, where I can refresh my health quickly when I need to, or have that extra 30 to be able to tank through some hits, is just super clutch. And that's why I really don't like having an offensive built hand, because you use your scatter, your pulse cannon, cycler, whatever you're using, and then it's on cooldown, you maybe get one kill with it, and now you're kind of at a disadvantage because you're just waiting for it to cool down, and it doesn't do you any good, whereas the Bacta gives you extra time, the jump pack, again, that's useful in every situation, and some of these other ones are only good in select situations. So if you're in a long-range fight with an enemy, a scattergun's not going to do you any good. A Bacta and a jump pack will. So if your goal in Star Wars Battlefront is to get then I fully recommend utilizing some of the tips in these videos. Alright guys, hope you all enjoyed, and that's going to be it for me. I'll talk to you all later. Peace out.
Survive.